And how is it that this stock market, which we just heard announced, just prospered all of a sudden in a week of dismal failure? Where are the falling gas prices this woman just told us we're enjoying? Where are they? You know? What is wrong here? You know, the very idea that stock market enjoyed this burst and that these people who aren't investors are investors and they're more confident now, therefore that somehow proves that we're likely to be better off, when all that they do, these people who have supposedly better confidence now, all that they do deprives we who produce of just reward for our production. The entire pool of wealth is produced by our productive efforts. The object of free enterprise is, if you build a house, it's your house. Whatever you produce is yours. And the object of a monetary system is to allow us to trade our work, though what we might want to purchase from another one might not be what they want in trade for that. So, in payment for our work by others who consume our production, we're able to buy the work of others by universal tokenization of our production. That's what monetization is all about. And when you ask any person, this is what they want from it. Money is a medium of exchange. Well, no. The money that we are subject to is absolutely, positively not a medium of exchange, because multiplication of artificial indebtedness in proportion to a circulation dedicates ever more of the circulation instead to servicing falsified sums of ever escalating debt, instead of sustaining the industry which is obligated to do so. This is why our industry is collapsing. This is why, at an escalating rate even, and this is why we're losing jobs at a like rate. You see? So all these things are lies. But so how is this stock market, how does it get this optimism all of a sudden? You can cite a few good numbers, but if you look around a little bit farther, you'll find a whole bunch of much worse numbers, and it doesn't add up that we're getting better off. It just doesn't add up. So any day of the year, the week, the hour, whatever, somebody can come out and say, well, this went up, therefore we have optimism. What about everything else? Because everything together is subject to this perpetual multiplication of falsified indebtedness, which isn't even debts to the bank. And see, this is how we understand that all this is wrong. And what really goes on? You've read about this for years. What does the Federal Reserve System do when the markets are in doubt? These people who are taking without production are in doubt. These people who are protecting their wealth from the system that destroys it as much as they can within that system are in doubt. What does the Federal Reserve do? It purchases government securities. And how does it do that? It always has to create the money. And is it ever the property of the bank? No, 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 no. And so we owe all this money to the Federal Reserve and or whoever it sells the bonds to, which are not people in this country, they're foreign countries, and they're people who have basically pursued for their lifetimes exploitation of the system of exploitation as much as they can, usually largely for the purpose of acquiring unearned wealth at the expense of true free enterprise. The two things are mutually exclusive. Just people would cry out for justice. And what is justice? Just reward for our production. It's the elimination of exploitation. So the lies are profuse. Their lies are incredible. And I'd like to cover another thing then regarding these lies. Several weeks ago, a number of us started a Freedom of Information Act inquiry to the Bank of England, and so I'd like to report these goings on to you so that well, as to give you a vision of the lies and evasion, which, in my perpetual estimation, are not something that we can't overcome. They're evidence of the weakness of this lie of economy, which we would readily overcome if we all simply understood this obfuscation of the currency that I've been explaining to you. All we do is divide different directions. We are our own worst enemy. And it's because we think, oh, these things are too complicated. I could draw these things out on a piece of paper, and as a matter of fact, so could you. Anyone who claims these things are too complicated could simply draw this out in a piece of paper. What did he say here? The money is introduced as a debt subject to interest. So let's just draw a square on the paper here, and that's the original debt. It's the principal. And so how do we maintain a circulation so that we can continue paying the whole obligation off, which is going to be the debt plus interest? You see? So we pay some principal and interest out of circulation. So we draw a chunk out of the square that we just drew that's the principal, which is the only thing in circulation. Now the circulation is diminished. Can it support the industry, which is necessary to continue servicing the debt? Well, maybe, but we need some vital circulation. So there's going to be a minimal amount that we can retain in circulation, after which, in order to maintain the vital circulation, we have to borrow the principal and interest back. So draw a few chunks out of your square until you're just satisfied that, you've just arrived at some arbitrary vital circulation, and then pay another chunk of interest and principal out of it. And what can you do? How do you maintain that vital circulation? Well, the banks have the money. How do you get money from banks? Do they give it to you? Can you work for the bank? Can all of us work for the bank to the extent of all the principal and interest that we're paying? It's impossible. Only the principal exists. So what happens? We do have to borrow this money back into circulation. So we borrow the principal back into circulation, and guess what? We create a new debt equal to the debt that would otherwise be resolved, making it mathematically impossible to pay down the sum of debt. We paid some interest out of circulation too, generally a whole lot. We borrow that back into circulation. What happened? We just assumed further debt. How much did the debt increase in that period of time that you paid interest and principal? Increase so much as the periodic interest. So indeed, that's the rate at which debt increases inherently and irreversibly, so long as we maintain a vital circulation. So what does the banking system have to say about this? How does it defend itself? How does it justify this obfuscation of the currency? The title of this Freedom of Information appeal is Demonstrable Facts of a Categoric Fault. It's filed by Mark Giles, founder of the End the Bank of England movement. And if you want to follow along or validate, my report, the URL is www.whatdotheyknow.com www.demonstrable_facts_of_a_ and the truncated word categoric with a C missing. CATEZGORI. So it's whatdotheyknow.com/request/demonstrable_facts of a category. GORI is all, with each of those demonstrable facts of a category minus the C, each of those words separated by the underscore character. All of that in lowercase. Title of the article, Demonstrable Facts of a Categoric Fault. As you'll see at the top of the article, whatdotheyknow.com makes and explores freedom of information requests. It's really a great tool. So it notes under the title that this freedom of information request was made to the Bank of England. It notes right under this, response to this request is long overdue. By law, under all circumstances, Bank of England should have responded by now. You can click on a details link for details, and you can complain by requesting an internal review. So this is the April 20th initial Freedom of Information request. Dear Bank of England, we have been reviewing whatdotheyknow.com, and a request by Mrs. Karen Lucas on the 22nd of February 2011 gives a parcel URL there, but you can click on it and read her excellent appeal also. This has brought much debate in our online forums, and there's several links given to these in the Fed USA and the European Central Bank and the Bank of England.com, all.ning.com, and the BOE.ning.com, for instance. In this case, we have seen varied responses and have sought independent advice from a gentleman by the name of Mike Montagne, founder, People for Mathematically Perfected Economy, and author-engineer of Mathematically Perfected Economy, who has kindly advised that the world's economies are finite and that regulation in the UK by the FSA and MPC can only temper an inherently terminal process. We're forcing the bank to answer to this proposition here. So if your eyebrows aren't raised and your attention isn't focused, you're asleep already. Go ahead and nod out. So our questions are as follows, and I'll enumerate them. 1. I've just explained these things. We're asking the bank for its answers. 1. What lawful consideration do you claim the Bank of England gives up when it creates money? Imagine the bank having to answer that question. We have their answer. I'll read it to you after this. Their purported answer. You'll love it. 2. How then does the bank, or does the bank, claim there is a debt to the bank? 3. What is the claim to interest then, when the bank can do no more than absorb the costs of merely publishing evidence of our promissory obligations to each other? What is the bank's claim to interest? We're demanding that under rights under freedom of information. We're demanding that answer. 4. 4 of 4. How is it possible even to maintain a vital circulation without accumulating inevitably terminal sums of debt? 4 questions, which themselves are enough to end banking across the world and establish mathematically perfected economy, if we the people only understand the problem, so that we understand as well that indeed there is one and one only solution. We go on in this letter, Freedom of Information Act appeal. Please, we do not require evasive, he meant to say evasion, in answering to whether money is subject to interest in any regular conduit by which either the government or the people can